In this game, Efim Geller sacrificed the rook in the opening just to pin his opponent's piece. However, it turned out that the unpinning of the piece was problematic, and Geller gradually increased the pressure on the pinned piece, after which his opponent's position collapsed. Geller started with knight f3, and his opponent Velimirovic played the king's Indian defense. d4, bishop g7, g3, short castle, bishop g2, d6, short castle, c5, knight c3, knight c6, d5, knight a5. In this variation, on the one hand, the knight is attacking the pawn on c4. On the other hand, however, this knight is black's main problem, because it's badly placed on the edge of the board and it doesn't have many prospects. So, the pawn is under attack, that's why Geller plays knight d2, of course, to defend the pawn. e5, e4. Now, black has two possible plans, either playing on the queen side by preparing the b5 pawn advance, or what Velimirovic did, playing on the king side by moving the f pawn. That's why he played knight g4, unblocking his f-pawn. And Geller simply plays b3 in order to reinforce the c4 pawn and as if emphasizing the bad position of the knight, because now the pawn is defended by the b3 pawn and the knight isn't really doing much on a5. And Velimirovic starts his pawn advance on the king side, of course, f5. Geller captures on f5, and here, instead of the natural g takes f, Velimirovic, who was known for his sharp tactical style, decided to grab the initiative by playing e4 instead of gf, opening his dark squared bishop's diagonal and immediately attacking the knight on c3, and in case the knight moves, the rook on a1 will fall. However, Geller found a brilliant idea. He decided to sacrifice this rook in the corner. First, he played f6, attacking the bishop, and after knight takes f6, he simply captures on e4, and after knight takes e4, Geller captures on e4, leaving his rook on a1 unguarded. And Velimirovic, of course, captures the rook, and at the moment black is a rook up. However, now we can see Geller's idea. He plays bishop g5, the bishop is defended by the knight, of course, and is attacking the queen. And once the bishop moved away from c1, the queen is attacking black's dark squared bishop. And this bishop is very important, because it's the main defender of the dark squares. As you see, the dark squares on the king side are weakened. And in case black moves the queen, white would simply capture on a1, after which black wouldn't have the defender of the dark squares anymore, while white would retain his own dark squared bishop. And that means the defense of the dark squares would be simply impossible. So white would get a very strong attack for the exchange, and also a pawn. That's why Velimirovic, of course, plays bishop f6 in order to save the bishop and also defend the queen. However, now we can see Geller's idea. Knight takes f6 check, eliminating the dark squared bishop, and after rook takes f6, the rook is pinned. So black is a rook up. However, as you see, the knight isn't doing anything, it's out of play, and the queen side isn't developed yet, and its development is problematic. And besides all that, Geller attacks the pinned rook for the second time, and the pressure will only increase. The only way to defend the rook is king f7, but now rook e1, threatening deadly rook e3, followed by rook f3, attacking the rook for the third time. So what to do? The most natural move, namely bishop f5, in order to start development of the queen side and also closing the f-file so that the white rook cannot attack the f6 rook for the third time, is losing immediately because of queen c3, attacking the knight. And white is threatening simply to capture on f6, and after queen takes f6, the knight would be unguarded, the queen would move away from d8 and white would simply capture on a5. The only way to defend the knight would be b6, but now, as you see, the diagonal is open and Geller prepared deadly rook e6, attacking the rook for the third time. And after bishop takes e6, d takes e check, the light squared bishop's diagonal is open, and after the king moves, white would simply capture on a8 and black wouldn't be able to capture with the queen because of simple queen takes f6 check. The correct defense, however, was found by Grandmaster Zaitsev about a year after this game, namely queen h8. So Zaitsev found a brilliant defensive resource. After queen c3, attacking the knight, and b6, defending it, white, of course, plays rook e6, attacking the pinned rook for the third time. And in case bishop takes e6, then, of course, white is winning because of simple bishop takes f6. And after queen takes f6, d takes e check, king takes e6. Of course, black cannot capture with the queen because of bishop d5, pinning the queen. And after king takes f6, simply exchange of the queens, and bishop takes a8. And in this endgame, white is much better, of course, because the knight simply doesn't have any moves, because both of these squares, b7 and c6, are under the bishop's control, and white has the pawn majority on the king side. However, in this position, instead of bishop takes e6, Zaitsev found rook takes e6, a brilliant move, leaving the queen unguarded. However, it turns out that white cannot capture the queen, because after queen takes h8, simply rook e1 check, bishop f1, rook takes f1 check, king takes f1, and bishop h3 check with the discovered attack on the queen. However, in this position, after rook takes e6, of course, instead of queen takes h8, white captures the rook first. D takes e check. And after bishop takes e6, queen f3 check, at first sight white is winning the rook. However, it's not the case. Black would play bishop f5, and it turns out that white must agree to the perpetual check. After queen d5 check, bishop e6, queen f3 check, bishop f5. In case white captures on a8, after queen takes a8, black would be even better. After queen takes a8, bishop takes a8, black has bishop b1, attacking the weak pawns on the queen side, and they will fall. So, actually, black in this position had a chance to make a draw, but that was extremely difficult, almost impossible to find during the game. It was found only a year after the game. And in the game, Velimirovic simply played rook b8, moving the rook away from the bishop's diagonal. As you see, that was important. But now Geller simply plays rook e3, threatening deadly rook f3. Black plays b6 in order to defend the knight, but now rook f3, of course, attacking the rook for the third time. Bishop f5 in order to close the rook's way, but g4, of course, attacking the bishop. In case the bishop moves, of course, the catastrophe on f6 would be inevitable. That's why black played queen h8 only now, but it was necessary to play it a few moves earlier. And now Geller simply transitions into the endgame. First, he captures on f6, and after queen takes f6, the queens are exchanged, and after that, he simply captures the bishop on f5. G takes f, and now rook e3. So now the invasion of the rook would be inevitable, and black has weakness on d6. That's why black plays knight b7, defending the pawn. But rook e6 check and king f7. So what to do now? Now you can pause the video and try to find how Geller increased the pressure. I will give you a small tip. What white piece isn't doing anything at the moment and how to activate it. So the piece which isn't doing anything is the bishop, of course, as it's limited by its own pawn on d5. That's why Geller plays bishop f3. Creating a very unpleasant threat, bishop h5 check, and there is nothing black can do to prevent it. So black plays rook g8 check, king f1, king f8, because bishop h5 check was coming anyways. And still, of course, bishop h5. Now, of course, rook e8 check is very unpleasant. Rook g5, rook e8 check, king g7, rook e7 check, so Geller transitions into the rook endgame now. King h8, h6, rook takes b7, rook takes h5, rook takes a7, so all these weak pawns will fall. Rook takes h2, rook d7, king g5, rook takes d6, king f4, king e2, b5, c takes b, king e5, attacking the rook, rook d7, rook h4. So now rook b4 was coming, that's why Geller played a3, rook h3, attacking the pawn on b3, f3, king d4, activating the king, b6, however, followed, rook h2 check, king f1, rook h1 check, king f2, rook h2 check, king g3, rook b2, b7, rook takes b3, a4, c4, a5, c3, a6, defending the pawn, and after c2, rook c7, black pawn is stopped, and that means black is losing because white pawns will simply promote to the queen. That's why in this position Velimirovic resigned. And now I recommend watching the 16th game of the 1951 World Championship, in which the world champion Mikhail Botvinnik gave a masterclass in the positional squeeze, taking control over the entire board. But first, like this video and subscribe, as it's really helpful for the channel growth.